You won't believe what just happened. Just 1 minute ago, Guy Penrod broke his silence, and what he revealed is shaking the entire gospel music community to its core. For weeks now, whispers have been circulating, rumors have been spreading like wildfire, and fans have been desperately searching for answers. Some of these stories have been so disturbing that thousands of devoted followers have been losing sleep, frantically checking their phones for updates, and flooding social media with prayers and concerns. But today, everything changes. Today, Guy Penrod himself stepped forward to address every single rumor, every piece of speculation, and every ounce of misinformation that's been circulating about him. And what he said is going to surprise you. Before we get into his exact words and the powerful message he shared, you need to understand something critical about how we got here, because this isn't just about one man setting the record straight. This is about something much bigger that affects every single person watching this video right now. This is about the dangerous speed at which false information travels in our digital age, and more importantly, how faith and truth can cut through even the darkest clouds of deception. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand not just what Guy said, but why his message matters more today than ever before, and how you can protect yourself and your loved ones from falling victim to the same rumors that nearly tore apart one of gospel music's most beloved communities. Let me take you back to where this all started, because understanding the timeline is absolutely crucial to grasping the full impact of what Guy Penrod just revealed. About 3 weeks ago, a post appeared on social media that seemed innocent enough at first. Someone claimed they had heard from a friend of a friend that Guy Penrod was facing serious health challenges. Now, here's what makes this particularly insidious and why. You need to pay attention to this pattern, because it could happen to anyone you care about. The post didn't make any definitive claims. It simply asked if anyone else had heard similar rumors, planting a seed of doubt that would grow into something absolutely massive. Within 48 hours, that single post had been shared over 15,000 times. Prayer chains started forming across Facebook groups, Instagram stories were filled with concerned messages, and YouTube comment sections became flooded with people asking if the rumors were true. But here's where things took a dark turn that nobody saw coming. As more people shared the initial concern, the story began to mutate and change, the way all rumors do when they pass through thousands of different voices. What started as a vague question about health suddenly became specific claims about hospital visits that never happened, medical diagnoses that were completely fabricated, and even wild speculation about Guy stepping away from ministry entirely. The gospel music community, known for its tight-knit bonds and genuine care for one another, was unintentionally amplifying false information at lightning speed, all because people genuinely cared and wanted to pray for someone they loved and respected. Now, before we get to Guy's response, I need to share something with you that most people don't understand about how misinformation spreads, and this is going to be eye-opening because it explains exactly why these rumors about Guy became so widespread so quickly. Researchers at MIT conducted a groundbreaking study analyzing over 126,000 news stories shared on Twitter over a 10-year period, and what they discovered is absolutely shocking. False information spreads 6 times faster than true information on social media platforms. 6 times faster. Let that sink in for a moment. The truth literally cannot keep up with lies in our current digital ecosystem. But here's the part that's even more disturbing and directly relates to what happened with Guy Penrod. The study found that false stories are 70% more likely to be retweeted than true stories, and they reach their first 1,500 people 6 times faster than accurate information. Why does this happen? It's not because people are malicious or want to spread lies. It's because false information tends to be more novel, more surprising, and more emotional than the truth. When someone sees a shocking claim about a beloved figure like Guy Penrod, their immediate instinct, especially in faith communities where prayer and support are valued, is to share that information so others can pray too. Nobody stops to verify because the motivation feels pure. You're not trying to gossip or spread rumors. You're trying to mobilize prayer warriors. But here's the critical lesson that applies to all of us, whether you're a gospel music fan or not. Good intentions do not neutralize the damage of spreading false information. This is something Guy himself addressed in his statement, and we're going to get to his exact words in just a moment. But first, you need to understand the real-world impact these rumors had on his life, his family, and his ministry. Imagine for a moment that you're Guy Penrod. You've dedicated your entire life to ministry, to using your voice to uplift others, to point people toward faith and hope. You've traveled countless miles, performed at thousands of events, and poured your heart into every song, every sermon, every moment of connection with fans who have supported you for decades. Now imagine waking up one morning to discover that the internet is convinced you're either seriously ill, stepping away from everything you love, or worse. Your phone starts ringing non-stop. Family members are calling in tears asking if you're okay. Friends from across the country are sending worried messages. Your own children are seeing posts online that suggest their father is in crisis. Ministry partners are reaching out, uncertain about future commitments and events. Venues are quietly calling your management team, wondering if they should start looking for replacement performers. And through all of this, you're sitting there completely healthy, completely fine, watching as a narrative about your own life spins completely out of your control. This is what Guy Penrod experienced over the past several weeks, and it's what thousands of public figures, ministry leaders, and even ordinary people experience every single day in our hyper-connected world. The psychological toll is immense. Guy later revealed in his statement that one of the hardest parts wasn't even the rumors themselves, but watching how they affected the people who love him. His wife saw prayer requests that made her own family members question if there was something being hidden from them. His grandchildren heard from classmates asking if their grandfather was okay. The ripple effects of misinformation extend far beyond the person at the center of the storm, touching everyone in their orbit and creating confusion, anxiety, and pain where none needed to exist. And here's something most people never consider but Guy specifically wanted to address. When false rumors circulate about someone's health or well-being, it doesn't just affect that person's emotional state, it affects their ministry effectiveness, their ability to reach people who genuinely need their message, and their capacity to fulfill the calling they believe God has placed on their lives. So when Guy Penrod finally decided to break his silence, he didn't do it casually or carelessly. He knew that his words needed to be measured, clear, and powerful enough to cut through all the noise that had accumulated over weeks of speculation. And what he said was absolutely profound. Speaking directly to his fans through a video message that has already been viewed hundreds of thousands of times, Guy opened with a simple but deeply meaningful statement. He said he was safe, he was well, and he was incredibly grateful for every person who had genuinely lifted him up in prayer during this confusing time. But then he said something that really struck at the heart of the issue, and this is where his years of ministry wisdom truly shone through. Guy emphasized that in moments of confusion and uncertainty, the Christian community has a responsibility to seek truth before spreading information, no matter how well-intentioned that sharing might be. He wasn't angry or accusatory. Instead, he approached the situation with the same grace and wisdom that has characterized his entire ministry career. He reminded his audience that the same Bible that calls us to bear one another's burdens also calls us to speak truth and to verify what we hear before passing it along to others. Guy specifically referenced Proverbs 18 verse 13, which tells us that answering before listening is both foolish and shameful. He connected this ancient wisdom to our modern social media age, pointing out that clicking share on a prayer request, without knowing if that request is based on truth, is essentially answering before listening. He's taking a biblical principle and applying it directly to the digital behaviors that cause this entire situation. But Guy didn't stop there, and this is where his message became truly transformative for everyone watching. He talked about the importance of going directly to verified sources when you hear concerning information about anyone, whether that's a ministry leader, a friend, or a family member. He encouraged people to check official social media accounts, ministry websites, or if you personally know the individual, to reach out directly rather than participating in speculation. What's particularly fascinating about Guy's approach to this entire situation is how he managed to turn a potentially divisive and negative experience into a genuine teaching moment that has resonated far beyond his immediate fan base. During his address, he introduced a concept that he called the power of pause, and this is something that every single person needs to implement in their daily digital life. Guy explained that before you share anything on social media, especially something that involves another person's reputation, health, or circumstances, you need to pause and ask yourself 3 critical questions. First, do I know for certain that this information is true? And if I don't know for certain, have I taken the time to verify it through reliable sources? Second, is sharing this information actually helpful to the person it's about, or am I simply satisfying my own need to be part of the conversation, or to appear informed and connected? And third, if this information turned out to be false, would I be comfortable with the fact that I participated in spreading misinformation about another human being created in the image of God? These 3 questions might seem simple, but Guy pointed out that if everyone who had shared the rumors about him had paused to ask themselves these questions, the false narrative would have stopped in its tracks almost immediately. He shared a powerful analogy that really drives this point home, comparing the spread of digital misinformation to the old illustration of squeezing toothpaste out of a tube. Once that toothpaste is out, once those words are posted and shared and screenshot and spread across multiple platforms, you can't put it back in the tube. You can issue corrections, you can clarify and apologize, but the original false information has already done its damage and reached people who may never see the correction. This visual illustration is something that has stuck with thousands of people who heard Guy's message, and many are reporting that they now think of the toothpaste analogy every time they're tempted to quickly share something without verification. Guy also addressed something that might make some people uncomfortable but needs to be said, and that's the role that algorithms and platform design play in amplifying sensational content over truthful content. He explained that social media companies have designed their platforms to prioritize engagement above all else, which means that shocking, emotional, and controversial content gets pushed to more people than calm, verified, and truthful content. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's simply how these platforms make money. They need you to stay on the platform as long as possible, and content that triggers strong emotional responses keeps people scrolling, commenting, and sharing. Guy encouraged his audience to be aware of this manipulation and to consciously resist it by choosing to be deliberate and thoughtful rather than reactive and impulsive in their online behavior. What makes Guy's response so powerful and so important beyond just clearing up rumors about himself is that he used this moment as a teaching opportunity for the entire gospel music community and really for anyone who uses social media or consumes information online. He talked about how quickly our digital age allows both truth and lies to spread, and he challenged everyone watching to be part of the solution rather than part of the problem. One of the most impactful things he said, and you can hear the passion in his voice when he delivers these words, is that the enemy of our souls loves nothing more than confusion, division, and the spreading of false information within the body of Christ. When believers are distracted by rumors and speculation, when they're anxiously checking social media for updates about crises that don't actually exist, they're not focused on the actual work of ministry that needs to happen in a hurting world. Guy pointed out that during the weeks these rumors were circulating, countless people were spending emotional energy worrying about him instead of reaching out to the genuinely hurting people in their own communities who needed prayer, support, and tangible help. This reframing of the issue is brilliant because it's not about making people feel guilty for caring. It's about redirecting that caring energy toward places where it can actually make a difference. He also addressed something that many ministry leaders are afraid to talk about publicly, which is the personal cost of living in the public eye during the age of social media. Guy spoke candidly about how rumors and misinformation don't just affect public figures themselves, but create a climate where ministry leaders and their families feel constantly vulnerable to false narratives. He wasn't complaining or asking for sympathy. Instead, he was creating awareness about a reality that affects thousands of pastors, worship leaders, gospel artists, and Christian public figures who often suffer in silence when false information circulates about them. Guy then shifted into discussing practical steps that individuals and church communities can take to create a culture of truth and verification rather than rumor and speculation, and this is where the real practical value of his message comes through in ways that can transform how we all interact online and offline. As Guy wrapped up his message, he returned to what matters most, which is exactly what you'd expect from someone who has dedicated his life to pointing people toward faith. He thanked everyone for their genuine concern and prayers, acknowledging that the motivation behind most of the sharing came from a place of love and care. He reminded his audience that he is blessed beyond measure to have fans who care so deeply about his well-being. But he left everyone with a challenge that extends far beyond this single incident. He asked each person watching to commit to being a truth-teller in their own circles, to pause before sharing, to verify before posting, and to remember that real love sometimes means protecting someone's reputation by refusing to participate in speculation about them. The gospel music community has responded overwhelmingly with support, with thousands of comments from people committing to be more careful about what they share and more diligent about seeking verified information. Many have apologized for participating in spreading the rumors, even unknowingly, and that kind of humility and accountability is exactly what the body of Christ needs more of in this digital age. Guy Penrod's message today wasn't just about setting the record straight about his own well-being, though that was certainly important. It was about calling all of us to a higher standard of truth, verification, and love in how we communicate in our hyper-connected world. As he continues his ministry, performing, recording, and sharing the gospel message that has defined his career, this moment will stand as a powerful reminder that faith, family, and truth will always triumph over rumors, speculation, and the noise of misinformation. And that's a message worth holding on to long after today's news cycle has moved on to something else. Now that you've heard Guy Penrod's powerful message and understand the real impact of misinformation in our digital age, I want you to do something right now that will make a genuine difference. First, if this video helped you understand the importance of seeking truth before sharing information, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel so you never miss important updates about Guy Penrod and the gospel music community. But more importantly, I want you to take the power of pause challenge that Guy talked about. Right now, go to your social media accounts and look at the last 5 things you shared. Ask yourself honestly, did you verify those posts before sharing them, or did you just pass them along because they seemed important or emotional? There's no judgment here, just awareness. Next, I want you to share this video with at least 3 people in your life who need to hear Guy's message about truth and verification. Maybe it's someone in your church family, a friend who's always sharing unverified prayer requests, or a family member who tends to believe everything they see online. You could literally save someone from spreading harmful misinformation by sharing this video right now. And finally, commit today to being part of the solution in the gospel music community and beyond. Before you share anything about anyone, take 30 seconds to verify the information through official sources. Leave a comment below telling me you're taking the Power of Pause challenge, and let's create a movement of truth-tellers who refuse to participate in spreading rumors, no matter how well-intentioned. Guy Penrod is counting on us to do better, and more importantly, our faith calls us to be people of truth and integrity in everything we do, including our digital lives. I also want to encourage you to check out Guy Penrod's official social media channels and website, which I'll link in the description below, so you can follow him directly and get verified updates straight from the source. If you've been blessed by Guy's music over the years, now is the perfect time to support his ministry by attending his upcoming concerts, purchasing his latest recordings, or simply sending him an encouraging message, letting him know that you stand with truth and appreciate his decades of faithful service to the gospel music community. Remember, every single one of us has the power to either spread truth or spread confusion, and the choice we make in those critical moments before we click share will determine what kind of digital legacy we leave behind. So make the commitment today, take the Power of Pause challenge seriously, and let's honor Guy Penrod and every other ministry leader by being known as people who value truth above sensationalism, verification above virality, and love above the need to be first with breaking news. Your voice matters, your choices matter, and together we can create a culture where truth prevails and rumors die before they ever gain traction.